The night sky lights up. Explosions ring out across the city of Erbil in northern Iraq. Iran says it hit what it describes as spy headquarters used by Israel's intelligence agency Mossad and gatherings of anti-Iranian terrorist groups. At least 5 missiles struck targets near the US consulate and residential areas in the administrative capital for the Iraqi Kurdish regional government. Daytime video shows some of the destruction. Iraqi Kurdish regional authorities say several people were killed and others injured in the attacks.
Many of the offices of terrorist organizations and the Mossad are very close to the US consulate because that they feel protected. But the Iranians were striking these targets because unfortunately northern Iraq is heavily infiltrated. They were both striking these targets, but also they were telling the Americans, they were sending a message that our missiles are very precise and we're not afraid to target these offices, these bases near your building.
The US condemned the attacks, calling them a reckless and imprecise set of strikes. In recent days, the US and UK have been targeting Houthi bases in Yemen in retaliation for attacks on cargo ships in the Red Sea. The Houthis say the vessels belong or are connected to countries supporting Israel. Washington says Iran supplies the Houthis with weapons.
Ansarullah has been putting pressure on ships going to Israeli ports to build more pressure to end this Holocaust. And of course, the resistance in Iraq has also been active to put pressure on the Americans to end this. But so far, we haven't seen de-escalation. We're only seeing escalation.
Iraq called the attacks a violation of its sovereignty and vowed to respond using all legal measures, including filing a complaint at the UN Security Council. Iran has carried out attacks in northern Iraq before, targeting what it says are armed Iranian opposition groups. But these latest strikes come as fears grow internationally about a wider escalation in violence in response to Israel's war on Gaza, a war that Israel says is far from over. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera.
Well, let's discuss this latest developments further now with Lahib Higel, who's a senior Iraq analyst at the International Crisis Group, is joining us from Stockholm. Thank you very much for being with us, Lahib. So Iran carrying out this attack in the larger sphere of where we are in the region at the moment with the war in Gaza. How significant and how concerning is this action by the Iranians?
It is, of course, significant considering that Iran chose to itself strike targets inside Iraq, which it so far hasn't done. The escalation that we've seen with the U.S. in Iraq has mainly been conducted by Iraqi groups that are aligned with Iran. So this is definitely a step further, although it is important to point out that it was not an attack directed at the U.S. assets.
Right. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard said that they targeted spy headquarters and what they called anti-Iran so-called terrorist groups in the Kurdish region of Iraq. Is that area of Iraq heavily infiltrated with these groups, the Mossad, for example, as the Iranians suggest? Why that specific area?
So this is not the first time that they have struck Erbil with these motivations. There was a similar strike in March 2022 when another prominent Kurdish businessman's house was targeted. And they used the same motivation, that it was a strategic center where Mossad operated. There is no evidence for this, however. But clearly, Iran is trying to show that it is willing to strike back for escalation that we see in other parts of the region. And this is an easy target that is geographically close.
Yeah, an easy target, you say. How might the Iraqis respond? And what does an escalation mean for the stability of Iraq?
The Iraqi government has responded. The foreign ministry has called up the Iranian ambassador. The Kurdistan regional government has, of course, condemned the attack. Both regional and central governments see it as a violation of Iraqi sovereignty. But in terms of escalation in Iraq, I'm not sure that this is the most significant type of attack that we've seen. We've seen tit-for-tat attacks between U.S. and Iranian-backed groups in Iraq that have taken place in Baghdad and in the south of the country. And in many ways, I think that that sort of escalation for the stability of Iraq is more concerning, even though this is a blatant violation of Iraqi sovereignty, including the Kurdistan region.
Interesting to talk to you about this. Thank you so much for your time. Lahib Higel from the International Crisis Group joining us from Stockholm. Thank you.